Hey, what's going on, Internet? So today I want to talk to you about how I speed write with OpenAI's O3 model, specifically converting YouTube videos into high quality and tasteful posts that I can share in other platforms. But it's important to note this isn't just for LinkedIn posts, but it's for X threads, newsletters, blogs, etc. I've been using AI to write my LinkedIn posts for the past month, and in that time frame, I was able to 3 to 4x the engagement for those posts. This is likely due to the AI, maybe some around the cadence and some other things I've been doing, but AI definitely plays a factor into that increased engagement. In this video, I'll show you the exact system I use to convert YouTube videos and podcasts into high quality and tasteful posts that you can share across platforms. The secret isn't just using AI, but sharing the right information with the right system prompt to ensure you get out a high quality piece of writing. With that being said, let's get into it. So as always, we have a beautiful image given to us from OpenAI. And in this image, I wanted to get across a simple point, is that in the age of social media, especially where we can put out all types of stuff in different formats of video, audio, and text, specifically in text, I tend, and I know a lot of my peers tend to pursue those individuals and follow those individuals that have high taste and a good ability to curate information. There's a lot of noise on social media. And if you're trying to track something in philosophy, economics, AI, any of those very specific fields, you want to find those that are quote unquote experts that curate information that shows you signal throughout the noise. And that's what this picture kind of depicts, where we have tons and tons of sources that are all coming in from social media. And let's say for AI as an example, this could be new research papers, new models, new techniques, new prompts, new tools, new products, all that stuff. Everything is happening so fast at such a high clip, it's hard to keep up. And it's hard to know actually which is useful and which is just noise. So, what I try to do is I try to follow people that I trust, and I specifically trust their taste, their intuition to know what is signal through noise, and they then share that in a way that's compelling and easy to digest and understand. So, I see these as tastemakers. So they have taste and they're curating that for others to see. And they then share this on different platforms to others for others to digest and to get insight from. My goal with the content I'm creating is to be one of those tastemakers. So I consume AI content all day, every day. So from Discords, newsletters, blogs, YouTube videos, podcasts, etc. And I'm always trying to figure out what is something here that's been stated that's a novel, that others aren't discussing, that still has some sort of value for a business to understand. I then curate this, and once I've curated it into my list, I run that through AI to ensure that when I'm writing this content, specifically in text, it's a compelling post that grabs people's attention. Because even though I know it's good content, oftentimes people still need to have some sort of hook to grab their attention to get them to consume the piece, and it has to be written in a way that's easily digestible and easy for them to understand. For me to do this at scale, so I can then put out content at a high clip and I'm not spending too much time writing, I use AI to assist. And that's what we're going to walk through today. I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. So we'll first start with the process. So this here is the basic process that I run through, and we'll walk through each one of these boxes. And after this, I'll then walk you through details of doing this in reality. So first things first is we need to gather ideas. So if we're gathering information, in my case, I'm consuming all this information from all these different places. So like I said, we have podcasts, we have YouTube videos, we have blogs, newsletters, an L for that. Even Discord is a good place. So all this stuff is being put in, and also X and other things. So all this is coming in. Now I'm consuming this probably definitely daily. And I have a little note in Apple Notes where I'm aggregating these ideas. So I come across something interesting. Okay, like that's an interesting point made. I add the link to the source, and I also make a little note to myself, probably 3 to 5 words, just to refresh my memory of what I found. I then have this curated list of ideas. So what I'll do is I'll sit down on a Sunday for maybe 2 hours, and I'll pump out probably 8 to 10 posts for LinkedIn based off of the ideas I've curated for the upcoming week. And to do this, I have a simple system where I use AI to assist, and also some code to convert some audio and video. And that's what we'll go to the next phase. So I would say maybe 60 to 65% of the content that I share in LinkedIn is derived from either a podcast or a YouTube video through a conversation or a presentation. And for AI to turn this into a compelling LinkedIn post, it's best for us to convert that to text first. So I'm going to take that audio and video and I'm going to convert that to text. And to do this is very simple. You don't have to know how to write code or anything. You can use ChatGPT, and this script is so easy to write. A lot of AIs, different AIs, so 3.7 thinking, 2.5 Pro from Gemini, and O3 from OpenAI, they can all one-shot this very simply. So you just do one prompt, it provides you a script, and boom, you're done. Once we have this, we have a simple script that takes in either a podcast clip and or a YouTube video link, and it will convert that to text, pulling out the transcript from the conversation. Once I have this, I'll pass this, once I have this, we need to find inspiration. And this is probably something you'll do like early on, but once you've done this, you don't have to do it every single time. So once you've gotten this set up, this is just a one and done situation. And the inspiration really comes down to who today that you follow does a really good job at conveying ideas on a specific platform. They're kind of known as an expert or an influencer in that space. So you have people on X, you have people on LinkedIn and newsletters and Substack kind of in that area. You have YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all these different places. There's different formats that work for different platforms. And there's certain rules of the road that change often because these platforms are always changing. There's always people competing against each other to get more attention. And what I'll do is I'll find somebody that I think does a really good job at conveying ideas on a certain platform. And most times these people will share different tips and tricks on how to do so. And in this case, I found an individual that was really good at LinkedIn, or at least in my eyes, I thought he was really good at LinkedIn. And he actually pulled together a PDF that talked through the different formats that would be useful for others to follow. In this case, this is an easy way for me to convert that PDF to encapsulated knowledge. But sometimes people won't share PDFs, but they'll have a conversation. So maybe there's an interview with somebody that you think is good at communicating, see them talk about the tips and tricks they have for that, convert that to a transcript from YouTube, and use that as your encapsulated knowledge for the next step. So in this case, I'll actually show you this individual here, Matt Gray, has a really good way of communicating on LinkedIn, and that's proven through the amount of followers and the engagement he has on his posts. And he actually pulled together this LinkedIn Power Format guide. So what I did is I took this guide that I subscribed to get, I converted this to a PDF, and I dropped this into a knowledge base for the AI to reference. So we'll talk more about that in a second, but just note that you can find these guides and you can use these things pretty simply. So after we have the inspiration, and we know the kind of format we want to write in, or the formats we want to follow, the next step here is to create an AI prompt. And this AI prompt is going to be a system prompt we're going to have for our project. And for these projects, I have both Claude and GPT projects. The reason being is I A/B test, and I kind of have these compete against each other when I write posts. And I won't do it every single time. It depends on time constraints. But I often like to A/B test and see how they're performing against each other, especially with different models. So I have two projects that are similar. And each of these projects will have a curated system prompt that I'll feed into them so it knows exactly what power formats that I need to refer to based off of the template this individual provided and how it should write its LinkedIn posts. And to show you exactly how I do this, I wanted to give you an example. So let's figure out which one of these tabs is the right one. Actually, I think it might be this one. Yeah. So what I did is, like I said, I took this and I saved it as a PDF. Once I saved it as a PDF, I've dropped it into ChatGPT. And you can see I'm using O4 Mini High. And I gave it this prompt. So leveraging best practices from prompting today, I want you to create a system prompt for another AI that will encapsulate that knowledge of this PDF I've shared with you. So anytime a user shares a resource or a LinkedIn post idea with you, the AI can decide which power format is most suitable, and then it'll write the LinkedIn post from that information. Go ahead and search online for best prompting practices as of 2025. So you can see I've mentioned this twice. I said prompting practices as of today, and then I reference that again. The reason I'm doing that is I want the AI to intentionally go off and search. And then you have to be explicit about it in the prompt, because when you drop in a PDF and a text snippet within ChatGPT, it for some reason disables search, so you can't select search and have a PDF. So you just have to be explicit of saying, I want you to go off and search the information. So it goes off, it finds all the best practices to prompting today, and it then gives me a prompt that I can feed into my future project to follow instructions. And I read through this and it's pretty good. So it gives you kind of a persona at the top saying you're a LinkedIn Power Format Assistant. These are the types of things you're going to do. You have initialized, I like this here. So it basically says you've internalized the founder guide that's attached above, which will be included in its knowledge base. And then it gives it the power formats that it needs to follow. In addition to that, it says you will be provided some source or a podcast or an idea from the user. And then your job is to follow these instructions. So you'll analyze, you'll then select the format, you'll generate the post, and when generating the post, you'll follow these specific ways of writing. And then at the end, you'll include specific things that are most suitable for a call to actions, etc. And then it gives it templated variables as well, saying these are the types of inputs that you'll have and the outputs expected. And then also at the end, it gives it a reminder to always follow certain items. And also it asks itself to evaluate its output to ensure that it's meeting the criteria, which is interesting. So it's kind of doing a self-reflection internally before it gives us the output. And that's what's happening on this last statement here. There are things I would change here. So this is not a system prompt I would take and use immediately, because there's certain things I would want to add. For instance, in this section where it has the writing suggestions and best practices, I'd probably remove this because the models we're going to use to do the writing are going to be reasoning models themselves. So we don't need to ask it to think. And I'd probably remove this because I'm not sure we need illustrative examples. And then also I'd probably add a few other bits here. So I don't know if I do edit here. I can. Cool. So I'll just give you some context to what I would change here. So I'd probably remove the thinking piece because, like I said, we're using reading models. I'd remove this. I'd probably add something along the lines of write at a 5th grade reading level. I would say favor simplicity and clarity over all else. And then maybe a few other things, but I would add a few different items that I've found are useful when it comes to writing for AI to ensure that it writes in a way that I feel is compelling and isn't just kind of canned AI writing. And that's something you'll learn over time as you experiment with these models and you play with different ways of kind of learning how to write with these models more effectively at a higher scale. So that's the prompt that we would get from this process. Because we're using AI to write it, we don't have to come up with a prompt from scratch, which is kind of the beautiful part of using AI really in all aspects of the process. So we have our prompt and we're happy with that. We have our inspiration from our PDF. So now like I said previously, the next step here is to iterate. So you're going to go through this process and you're going to write a lot of different posts for different social media platforms if you prefer to follow this process. And probably after 5 to 10 iterations, you'll start to see patterns in how the AI writes, and there will be things you like and things you don't. And in those cases, you need to iterate slowly and kind of specifically and targeted on the prompt that's in the system instructions. So you want to add things, remove things, and I'll give you an example of how I've changed things on my prompt writer. So if I go to ChatGPT and I go to my prompt writer here, and we look at the system instructions, you'll see that this is not the one that I've shown you previously, but this is the one that I use. And if I go down a bit further, these are some things that I've added in over time. So first is the 5th grade writing level. I've already shown you this. I've also added the importance of the CTA, the question at the end being a binary question instead of an open-ended question, because I found that gets more engagement. Some other items that I've added here. Oh, here's another one. Avoid saying game changer or related overly blown word usage. So that's sometimes that AI will use that, so you want to avoid using those types of things. And then other types of things I've added here as well. So these are all little micro iterations I've added over time based off of the back and forth I've had with AI through testing this multiple times. So as you iterate, and you'll be finished. You'll be, boom, be able to create it. So that's the overall process. It's very straightforward, very simple. And I think a lot of people overcomplicate writing with AI, or they immediately dismiss its ability to write in a human way. And they assume that if anything is AI written, it's probably going to be slop. And from my experience, that's just not true. All right, so with that being said, I wanted to give you a live example because it is not Sunday, it's Saturday, but I'm going to do this for you, Internet, because I love you so much. So I'm going to do a live example of creating a LinkedIn post from a series of videos I found recently from Sequoia that published only a few days ago that I feel like has a lot of really great signal. So there's a lot of noise out there, but these presentations I felt were novel, interesting, and likely valuable for businesses to understand and know about. So the one that we'll do today is this one here. So this is a video that was published only a day ago from one of the OpenAI primary research leads. And he talks a lot about AGI and specifically how OpenAI is interpreting their shift in compute and how they're going to focus more on reinforcement learning and less on pre-training. So up to today, everybody focused on pre-training. So we're going to throw a bunch of compute with a bunch of data, and we're going to train our models. And then once we've trained them, we're going to give them out to the world and let them play with the AI. That's one way, and that's worked so far. That's only one way of scaling AI's intelligence. Another way that a lot of AI researchers are running into now is reinforcement learning. And that's allowing the AI to learn from another AI's kind of question and answering and its environment. So you're using reinforcement learning, not only a pre-training process, but also an inference. So when the AI is interacting with you, it's allowing it to think at scale. So the longer it can think, the better the results to come out. So that's an interesting idea and concept that he shared here. So I wanted to convert that to a interesting video or LinkedIn post. So to do this, I simply used the script that I have in my terminal, and I'll just show you here. Let's make this bigger. Like I said, the Python script is super easy to write, and honestly, I could probably just cat this out. I think it's like 35 lines, maybe 35 or 40 lines. This Python script is super short, super basic, and you can see that I basically pulled this out. So let's cat transcript. You can see basically this is the transcript that I pulled from with the Python script. So I just basically did the Python script, pull out the transcript, and we have the text from here. So once I have the text, I'm going to drop it into this chat here with my LinkedIn post writer using O3. So I found that Claude 3.7 Thinking and O3 are the two best at writing today. O3 has surprisingly beat out 3.7 Sonnet Thinking more times than I expected. So it's kind of the winner at the moment. And it's good at following instructions. So I think that's probably why it's so good. So I drop in the transcript and I then give it some additional context. So this is the context I give it oftentimes when I'm repurposing presentations that I've seen elsewhere, where I'll state, pull out the primary idea. And sometimes I'll have the AI choose what it thinks the primary idea is, or I'll give it explicitly what I think the primary idea is. In this case, I think that I know what it is, and I gave that explicitly. So I said, pull out the primary idea here that reinforcement learning is taking over pre-training. Make sure the hook is a scroll stopper, but authentic to the content and not overly dramatic. This is important. Oftentimes, if you say scroll stopper, and I want it basically to be a really strong hook at the beginning, it may be like the world's going to end and AI is going to take over everything, and that's not useful and or interesting. So I want it to be authentic with the content I provided, as well as not overly dramatic. So I'd recommend including that into your prompts if you want to have high quality writing. Next, we'll ask, make sure to provide credit at the end in the post in parentheses, not to harm the flow of the piece. So I ask this to happen because I want to give credit where credit is due, always. And I usually do it in parentheses. So I'll say the person's name, the presentation, and I'll even tag them on LinkedIn if they're available. And at the end, I'll also say maybe even mention OpenAI somewhere at the beginning to get more attention towards the post. So OpenAI is a big company, a lot of people know about it, they're interested in it. So if I include that at the beginning of the post, I'll likely get more attention. So this is just some additional context I'll give the AI in addition to the system prompt. After this, it'll give me a write back. And I wanted to show you, reality is that it might not one-shot this perfectly. It may for your expectations for writing, but I sometimes want to change the writing based off of what I've seen. So it often writes it in Canvas so I can then make inline edits in specific places. In this case, it wrote the first version. And when it came back with the first version, I thought it was too short and too concise. So I said, this is okay, but it's a bit too short. We need it to be more descriptive, providing context where relevant. Also, make sure the writing flows logically. And then I wanted to reassure that it didn't get too lengthy, because sometimes if you say lengthen your piece, it'll get crazy and write way too much. So I stated, make sure it's not too much though, so not too long, just a little bit more text. After doing that, on the second iteration, I was satisfied with the piece, and this is the final output. And once I have the final output, I'll then paste it into a doc. I'll reformat it. I'll sometimes make minor changes. So one minor change here I made is why this shift is happening. And if I go back here, you can see that it says why this flips the game. Oftentimes you'll see AI say game changer, game flip, whatever. It's a common thing you'll read when you especially write with AI often. You want to kind of get rid of those pieces that are too cliche or canned. And after that, once I've gotten this out, I'll sometimes create a visual for the AI as well for LinkedIn. And to do that, what you'll do is I'll just pass in basically a conclusion here. So in the LinkedIn writer, I also have in my system prompt asking it to come up with a visual at the end. So let me find that section. Yeah, so provide a detailed prompt for another AI to create a complementary visual with a LinkedIn post. It should highlight one primary point associated to the post. When writing the post, make sure it's not just the post, no additional labels, annotations, just the post itself so we can easily copy and paste. So this second portion probably should be, let's do this. Let's make that a 0.5. And the fourth point is what I wanted to show you. So this one's basically stating that I want you to provide me a prompt I can provide to another AI to create an image for me. And that's what it did in this previous iteration that I ran. And I took that prompt and I provided it to OpenAI again to create. And this is the prompt it gave me. I iterated a few times until I got one that I was satisfied with. And I was like, all right, I like this one. And then I had my post. So that, my friends, is the process. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything that I wanted to share with you. No, that's it. So internet, with that being said, that's the video. So I hope you found this entertaining, educational. If you did, please reshare it with your friends. And if you would like to work with me, I have a company called Gradient Labs where we help organizations implement AI internally to increase productivity, save time and money, and sometimes even generate revenue. So if you're interested in that, there's a link below for a free discovery call between you and me to see if there's a good fit. With that being said, internet, I'll see you next time.